Hey everybody, it's Christian, and I'm excited to introduce a new series today called The ReGroup. And in this, I'll be interviewing people from around the world at GroupM, as well as some external guests. We'll be talking about various topics that are facing our business and industry. Our first guest is Nicolas Bidon, CEO of Xaxis, and I'm really excited to share that conversation with you. So please tune in, enjoy, and I'll talk to you again soon. Hello, Nicolas.
Hey CJ,
How are you doing?
I'm all right. I guess all things considered, I'm all right. It's certainly unusual times.
Indeed. This is our first weekly episode of something we're calling Regroup, which is a chance for me to connect with people around the world. And really excited that you're our first guest.
Thank you for
Tell me a
that.
little bit about, just tell me a little bit about how you're doing, what's going on, where you're at. It looks like you're in your library of some sort. But tell me about how things are going.
No, I think all things considered, as I said, I think Xaxis people at Xaxis are doing okay. I think it's geographically it's either like the third week, the first week, sometimes the fourth or fifth weeks that we're all working from home. And certainly there's been a period of adaptation. But we did a quick survey a couple of weeks ago, asking people what was working well, what wasn't, how they felt, and I have to say overall it feels that people have managed ways to keep themselves productive, healthy, and to look after one another. So I've been pretty impressed with everyone.
And where is home for you?
Home is London, and again, quite a unique situation. Just to illustrate, one of the things I do to keep me sane is I try to go out for my daily exercise every day. We still are allowed to do this in London. And so today I took the opportunity to cycle to the center, to Westminster and Buckingham Palace. And it was very eerie. There was barely any cars, nobody in the streets, no planes in the sky. I could actually hear the birds. And instead of the hordes of tourists you see on the palace gate, it felt very empty. So it's
definitely strange times. We just got an email from the superintendent of the school. Obviously, I'm out in San Francisco, but they've officially canceled school for the rest of the year.
wow.
Next week was supposed to be spring break. They've canceled spring break, and then they moved up summer break. So my son's getting out of school 10 days earlier, but it's very, very different. And shelter-in-place orders in California and now extending across the rest of the U.S. People are interpreting them in different ways, and they've closed the trails and the parks, and it just feels different when you go out. But it's great you're getting outside still, and I'm sure it's fun to bike some of the roads that would otherwise be congested, especially in a place like London. Tell me a little bit on the business side. I mean, obviously you're the CEO of Xaxis. What's the biggest commercial challenge you faced, during this time period, and how are you adapting?
Sure. I think there's a couple of things that have proven difficult. One of them is having visibility, right? I think when you lead a company, and I'm sure you would agree with that, part of your job is trying to think ahead, right? Not just to deal with the fires you may have that day or that week, but really try to say, okay, what are the things I need to do now to prepare for the future? And I think it's challenging in this crisis, because all of our clients are also trying to do the same thing we are, which is to get more visibility about the health of their business, their people, their communities. And so things change very rapidly. So I think one of the challenge has been, what is the true impact on our business? The second one, I think, is also communication, because I feel we at Xaxis, very similarly to I would say GroupM and WPP, are trying to over communicate with our people and to be as transparent as can be on everything that's happening, but everybody else is doing the same. And I think that creates sometimes confusion, because you've got people in certain markets hearing from their agency global leads, their GroupM local leads, WPP, Xaxis, and frankly, it's a lot to process, I think, for people at times, and sometimes also there are contradictory things in those messages just because the situation is very fluid. So I would say, those are two from a more maybe leadership perspective. Some of the things we've tried to adapt with the rest of the exco. What about you? I'd love to hear that as well.
I mean, in terms of the challenge in this, it's exactly as you say. It's visibility. Trying to understand what our clients are going to do, where the industry's moving right now, how consumers are reacting, and it's really different country by country, region by region. I think we're taking the same kind of measures that you are, and I'm sorry if we're part of the problem, adding to the confusion. And as we sit here and make another video that's going to go out, but I think we're trying to communicate with our people as much as we possibly can. I just did a podcast with Ad Exchanger, and at the end of it, she says, "You're quite an optimist, aren't you?" or something along those lines. And I said, "I am. I really do think, as challenging as this is, and and the amount of tragedy that is out there, I think there's a lot of positive things coming through this." And I've been surprised about how well we've been able to communicate through video, and how our teams are really coming together. And I'm still a relatively new CEO for GroupM, and I've been working really hard to build my own executive committee. And we've got a daily call that goes out, and people are finding ways to work together. And I think if there's a silver lining to any of this, it's new ways of collaboration, new ways for people to start working together, and really seeing so many people do just extraordinary things to try and make this a little bit easier for everybody in the world. So
yeah, I completely agree. I think the level of collaboration and communication across the group between the agencies, GroupM, and those global, regional, and local teams has definitely been higher than I've ever seen it in the 8 years that I've been at GroupM. So I think that will, people often say that a crisis brings people closer together, and it builds stronger teams. And for me, 3-4 weeks in, I definitely already see that. So I think, as you say, that is certainly a silver lining for all of us.
Xaxis is such an important part of our business, and I should take a moment just to thank you and all the people at Xaxis that work so hard for us around the world. What do you think the business could do for you guys to maintain, the momentum that you've had in the past? How can we help in any way?
Sure. Well, I think, thank you for acknowledging our contribution, but it is truly a symbiotic relationship between Xaxis and the agencies. And as you know, 90% of our business comes from our agency's clients, right? So we really win together. And I think, over the last 3 years, we've really tried to stay true to our positioning of being an outcome company, meaning trying to deliver better ROI from digital investments. And so we've put together a pretty aggressive, I would say, package to try to deliver hard savings for our clients if they give us their programmatic business. I think it's something that should be appealing as one option for some clients. Certainly not a one-size-fits-all. So, my one ask to all of our agency partners really would be, go knock on doors, put those kind of proposition forward, and let's see if maybe there is an opportunity to do some things that maybe wasn't there before the crisis.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we've seen really strong growth at Xaxis in the last 18 months. And I think a lot of it has been, a refining of the positioning and really being invited in to talk to clients and share with them what the Xaxis model is and how it can benefit them. And, the idea of guaranteeing outcomes and saving clients money during this time period should be something that works really well for us. Changing topics a little bit, and I'm going to try and ask everybody this when we do this weekly series, but for now, I think what I'm going to do, what's the one thing you're looking forward to most once life gets back to a bit more normalcy?
Oh, that's a good one. I think for me, it's really, I live quite far from my family, right? So I think I'm used to, I would say, leveraging all the modern communications we're all using more than usual at the moment when it comes to video conference, etc. So that doesn't feel very different. What does feel very different is the inability to meet with friends. I'm a big a foodie. I love to cook. I love to host dinner parties. I love to share good moments with friends over food and wine. And at the moment, doing this across a video screen, as I do, actually, just doesn't feel the same, and certainly means I cannot share some of the cooking and the good wines with the rest of my friends. So I would say for me, that's what I'm looking forward to, is just being able to reconnect with that local community in person as opposed to virtually across screens.
Well, me too. I hope that once this all settles down, maybe you and I can share a meal and have a glass of wine, and this will all be something that ends soon. So thank you for joining me. It's been great to talk, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Thank you for having me too.